Kelsey was the shooter. And the standard for criminal convictions is not a coin flip. It's beyond a reasonable doubt. It is a high standard. That means that evidence cannot contain any reasonable doubt that Tory was the one holding the gun and shot the gun at Meg. But without more concrete DNA or GSR evidence, it's hard to say this is anything but reasonable doubt that Tory was the shooter and held the gun. The second reasonable doubt is the fact that we never got a straight story from anybody about what actually happened that night. In a case where there's so much chaos and confusion going on, it's hard to say that the prosecutor's theory of the case is not only the correct theory, but it's correct beyond a reasonable doubt. None of the witnesses were entirely credible since they each told a different version of events. Many of them lied, many of them left out key facts, and sometimes they even contradicted their own past testimony. In fact, Kelsey told prosecutors in a recorded interview a story that largely reflected Meg's story. In the interview, she said she saw Tory with the gun, saw Tory shoot the gun at Meg, and then remembered being offered $1 million bribe by Tory to not say anything about what happened. But when she took the stand at the trial, she disavowed that prior interview and said she was lying in it to protect herself. On the stand, under penalty of perjury, Kelsey said she did not see Tory with the gun, she did not see Tory shoot the gun at Meg, and did not remember being offered $1 million bribe by Tory. She then said that her text to Meg's bodyguard that Tory shot Meg was entirely based on assumptions and that she did not actually see the shooting happen. On top of all of that, it is also true that both Meg and Kelsey had sexual relations with Tory, but since the shooting, these former BFFs have now become totally estranged. And this takes me to Meg's story, which has its own holes as well. She initially denied ever having any sexual relations with Tory, even though that's Tory's entire argument that he was sleeping with both of them, which made them get into a fight with each other. When asked in an interview, Meg said she never had any relations with Tory.
Did you have an intimate relationship with him?
Like sexual?
Yeah. Megan, did you have a sexual relationship with Tory Lanez? Yes, that's my question.
I didn't have a sexual relationship with Tory.
So that was a fucking lie.
And she also conveniently forgot that she got into a physical fight with Kelsey that same night right before the shooting. Now,
and why is that, Mr. Reed?
Because it's devastating to my case.
Overruled.
but this brings me to the biggest reasonable doubt in the entire case, which is a reasonable doubt that I'm surprised to have not heard many people talking about, and that's the injury itself. During the trial, Dr. Lee Haruno testified about the surgery he did to remove bullet fragments out of Meg's feet. While everyone was focused on this testimony as proof, and the x-rays he brought as proof that, yes, Megan was shot, she had bullet fragments in her feet, which is true, those are all facts. What I'm so surprised to have seen no chatter about is where the injury actually happened. Because when you look at the actual testimony, the bullet fragments hit Meg's heel bone and her Achilles area, aka the back of her feet. Now, this is significant because Megan claims that she was facing Tory when she saw him shoot the gun at her feet. As of the trial, since Kelsey recanted her testimony about seeing Tory shoot the gun, Megan is the only one saying that she saw Tory with the gun and saw him shoot at her. She's the only witness who testified to that fact. No other witness has made this claim. But if that were true, then it would have been impossible for her to suffer any injuries to the back of her feet. Now, I know what some of you are thinking right now. So what if the injuries are on the back of her feet? She could have been facing Tory and the bullets could have hit the ground behind her, and the fact that they exploded and fragmented when they hit the ground, some of those fragments shot back and hit Megan in the feet. But that's not how bullets work. These bullets were 9mm and were shot from a handgun, which means they're traveling anywhere between 950 feet per second and 1500 feet per second. It does seem that the bullets did explode, considering Meg was hit with bullet fragments and not full bullets. But if she was facing Tory when she was shot, it is physically impossible for a bullet shot at a downward angle to hit behind her, fragment and explode, and then have some of the fragments shoot backwards and hit her in the back of the feet. When the bullet fragments, it would be traveling so fast that all the fragments would be continuing to go in the direction the bullet was shot. Maybe if she was standing up against a wall, the bullet could have hit the wall, fragmented, and bounced back. But no, she was standing on a relatively flat surface. So when the bullets hit and fragmented, there's only one direction they're going to go, and that's the same direction they already were going. So unless she was pulling some Jobu Tupaki moves or became possessed by by a demon right before she was shot, she was facing away when she was shot, and thus could not definitively say who shot her. And with several people present and witnesses to the shooting, but no one able to definitively say it was Tory that pulled the trigger, that's the definition of reasonable doubt. So, where does that leave us? Probably is not enough to secure a conviction, and I think there was enough reasonable doubt in this case to acquit him of the assault charge. But obviously the jury disagreed with my assessment of the case, and they convicted him of all 3 charges.